Appreciation for the rescue, brother. I'll handle it now. Ryan flashed his casual smile, reclining in the office chair as if he'd just been gifted the keys to the kingdom, instead of being handed the reins of the restaurant. I'd pulled back from the brink with my own funds. My name's Mike Valerial. I'm 38, and I just sat through my family deciding I wasn't fit to lead the business I'd saved from collapse. We were crammed in the tiny back office of Valerial's kitchen, our family's Mexican-Italian fusion spot on San Antonio's west side. 3 months back, this place was 72 hours from shutting down for good. $122,000 in the hole, landlord ready to evict, suppliers refusing deliveries. I sold my downtown condo to keep it afloat. Every cent of equity I'd built over 5 years wiped out. We've decided Ryan will oversee operations, my dad announced, avoiding my gaze. Thomas Valerial, 66, built like he still hauled bricks before he turned to cooking. He's got a knack for people and business matters. You're not cut out for this kind of stress, Mike. My mom, Gloria, sat silently in the corner. She'd mastered the art of fading into the background during family disputes, always finding a stack of papers to sort or a shelf to tidy until the tension passed. Today, she was reshuffling invoices that were already in order. I glanced at the folder in my hands. Financial forecasts, marketing plans, vendor deals I'd already kicked off. Plans for the restaurant I'd worked in since I was 22, mastering every role from prep cook to manager, the place where I'd poured 16 years of my life. What's my position now? I asked. Same as always, my dad replied. Kitchen supervisor, you're solid in that role. Kitchen supervisor, answering to my younger brother who'd worked here sporadically for 2 years when he bothered to show up. Ryan was already on his phone, likely drafting his social media reveal. He'd been tossing around ideas about elevating the brand and modernizing our online presence since he started. Meanwhile, I was the one who'd slashed food costs without sacrificing quality, trained 3 waves of line cooks, and kept this place alive when no one else could. Sounds fine, I said. That was it. No fight, no objections, nothing theatrical. I shut my folder, stood, and walked through the dining area I'd helped revamp twice, past the family photos spanning 4 generations, out the front door my great-grandfather hand-painted in 1987. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, not furious, just crystal clear about something I'd dodged for years. Then I grabbed my phone and dialed the property manager. The thing about being the dependable son is people stop noticing your reliability. They just assume it's there. Growing up, Ryan was the smooth talker. Charming grin, sharp wit, could sweet-talk his way out of trouble or into opportunities. I was the grinder, steady, trustworthy, invisible when things ran smoothly, indispensable when they didn't. When my parents launched Valerial's Kitchen in 1999, I was 14. Ryan was 11. I started scrubbing dishes that summer and never really stopped. By 18, I was running prep on weekends. By 25, I was handling stock and training new hires. By 30, I knew the operation better than my parents did. Ryan went off to college for marketing, landed a job at an ad agency downtown, dated a string of women who looked perfect in photos. He'd show up at family dinners with tailies of client pitches and industry mixers. My stories were about supplier haggling and fixing broken equipment. Mike's the foundation of this place, my dad would say. But Ryan, he's got big ideas. Big ideas apparently meant posting food pics on Instagram and pitching Korean fusion dishes because they were hot online. Never mind that our customers came for the classic Mexican-Italian dishes my grandmother had honed over decades. When the pandemic struck in 2020, everything shifted. We lost 60% of our income in 2 months. My parents were never great with finances. They loved food and family, but numbers spooked them. They started falling behind on everything: rent, utilities, supplier bills, equipment loans. By late 2023, we owed $122,000, and the landlord was talking eviction. My parents had already remortgaged their house twice. Ryan was scraping by in a shared apartment. I had my downtown condo bought in 2019 with solid equity. It's just temporary, my dad said when I offered to sell. We'll repay you once business rebounds. I knew it wasn't temporary, but I did it anyway. Used every dollar from the sale to clear our debts. The landlord insisted on transferring the commercial lease to my name since I was footing the bill. It made sense from his angle. He wanted someone financially accountable as the primary leaseholder. I agreed without much thought. Family is family. But over the last 3 months, I started noticing things. Ryan would roll in late, leave early, spend most of his time snapping photos for social media. When suppliers called with issues, they asked for me. When equipment failed, I fixed it. When staff had questions about schedules or processes, they came to me. My dad would watch Ryan charm diners and see the future of the business. He'd see me handle a kitchen crisis or haggle with a tough vendor and say Ryan was better with people. I was just good at keeping things moving. I didn't head home after the meeting. Instead, I ended up at Bracken Ridge Park, sitting on a bench by the river, reflecting on the last 16 years. The realization wasn't loud. It was quiet, like most real truths are. My family had never seen me as more than dependable labor. Good for heavy lifting, problem-solving, crisis control, but not leadership material, not worthy of respect or authority, certainly not capable of steering the business I'd just saved with my life savings. They'd looked at me with my financial plans and growth strategies and decided I wasn't built for leadership stress. After 16 years of watching me handle every challenge this place could throw at someone, but Ryan could make diners laugh, so Ryan got to be the boss. My phone buzzed. The property manager. Mike, got your message. You had questions about the lease. Yeah. If I wanted to rework the restaurant's management structure, what would that look like legally? Rework it how? New operating partner. Different leadership setup. He paused. Well, you're the primary leaseholder. As long as the business keeps up with rent and insurance, you can organize operations however you see fit. You thinking about bringing someone on? I told him about Lucia Ortega. I've been mentoring her for the past year. She was a line cook at a downtown restaurant, but she had real skill and a growing social media following. Food Network had spotlighted one of her pop-up events. She'd mentioned wanting the right partnership opportunity. How fast could something like that happen? I asked. A few days if the paperwork's ready. You want to run this by your family first? No, I said, I don't think I do. That night I called Lucia from my apartment. It was late, but she picked up. Lucia, it's Mike from Valerial's Kitchen. Hey, you got a few minutes to talk. Mike, yeah, what's up? Remember our chat about partnerships? About you looking for the right chance to run your own kitchen? Yeah. How would you feel about taking over operations at my family's restaurant? Equal partnership, your name on the sign, full creative control over the menu. Long silence. Are you for real? Completely serious? I can have the paperwork ready by Thursday. Mike, what's going on? Did something happen? Something did, I said. I stopped pretending my family valued me. And you want to team up with me? I want to work with someone who gets that great food and smart business aren't at odds. Someone who earned their skills, not just inherited a title. When do we start? How about Thursday morning? After I hung up, I sat in my empty apartment, thinking about the call I'd just made. Tomorrow, Ryan would show up expecting to start his new role as manager. He was in for a surprise. Wednesday morning, Ryan strolled into Valerial's Kitchen with a notebook full of ideas and the confidence of someone who'd never actually run anything. I'd been there since 5:30 a.m., handling morning prep like I had every day for 16 years. Our prep cook, Carlos, gave me a knowing glance when I arrived. Family gossip spreads fast in Mexican families, and he'd already heard about Monday's management decision. You good, hermano? He asked in Spanish. I'm fine, I told him. Just keep doing your thing. Ryan walked into the kitchen around 9 a.m. with his coffee and notebook, brimming with the kind of enthusiasm that comes from not grasping what you're actually accountable for. So I've been thinking about the menu, he said, flipping through his notes. We need to modernize. Korean-Mexican fusion is huge right now. I'm thinking kimchi quesadillas, bulgogi tacos, maybe a Korean-Italian pasta dish. I was breaking down chickens for lunch specials. We're Mexican-Italian, that's what our customers come for. But we need to evolve, Mike. Social media buzz is all about staying trendy. I stopped cutting and looked at him. Have you asked any of our actual customers about Korean fusion? I don't need to ask them. The data shows what's hot. That was when I knew for sure this partnership would be a disaster. Ryan genuinely thought running a restaurant meant chasing social media fads and posting pretty pictures. He had no clue about our profit margins, our customer base, our operational realities. Ryan, I said, we've got 38 reservations for lunch today. Maybe focus on that first. He waved it off. That's operational stuff. I'm thinking big picture. At 11 a.m., our produce delivery came up short on Roma tomatoes, critical for our signature arrabbiata sauce. Ryan was in the office tweaking our Instagram bio to include under new management. I called our backup supplier, negotiated a rush delivery for double the usual cost, and had Carlos adjust prep to stretch what we had. By lunch service, we were set. But I watched Ryan take credit when our regular, Mr. Rodriguez, praised him for how smoothly things ran. Just good leadership, Ryan told him with that polished grin. Around 2 p.m., my dad dropped by to check on the transition. He found Ryan in the dining room chatting with a food blogger who'd heard about our new direction. "How's the new setup going?" my dad asked me later. "Great," I said, not looking up from my prep. "Ryan seems pumped. He's got real vision for this place." I kept slicing vegetables. Didn't mention that Ryan's vision was mostly about posting photos and chasing food trends that didn't match what we served. That evening after closing, Ryan pulled me aside for what he probably thought was a generous gesture. "Look, Mike, I know this change might feel odd, but I want you to know I value what you do here. The kitchen work, the daily operations, you're really good at that." He said it like he was doing me a favor by acknowledging my skill at the job I'd been perfecting for 16 years. "I was thinking we could make your role official," he went on. "Kitchen supervisor with a small pay bump, make it formal. Kitchen supervisor reporting to him. A small raise for the guy who'd sold his condo to save the restaurant." "I'll think about it," I said. That night, I finalized the partnership agreement with Lucia. We were meeting at 6 a.m. Thursday to sign papers and start the transition. Ryan had no idea what was coming. Thursday morning came, gray and chilly, the kind of January weather that keeps San Antonio hushed. I got to the restaurant at 5 a.m. and started digging through financial records, something I should have done months ago. What I found was worse than I'd thought. The $122,000 in debt I'd cleared was just the surface. We still owed $31,000 to various suppliers on extended payment plans my parents had arranged without telling me. Our food costs were at 37% of revenue when the industry norm was 28 to 32. We were losing money on waste, overordering, and expired stock no one was tracking properly. But the real kicker came when I found emails on my dad's computer he'd forgotten to delete. 6 months of correspondence with a commercial real estate agent about selling the restaurant. The emails dated back to August, before I sold my condo, before the family meeting, before any of this began. My dad had been exploring listing Valerial's kitchen and retiring on the proceeds. The agent's assessment was harsh. Current value around $180,000 given the debt and deferred maintenance. Recommend resolving financial issues and showing consistent profits before listing. Timeline 12 to 18 months for optimal sale conditions. My dad had replied, asking about speeding up the process. The agent suggested bringing in dynamic leadership to make the business more appealing to buyers. It all fell into place. They hadn't made Ryan manager because they believed in his skills. They'd made him manager to polish the business's image before selling it. They planned to cash out using the money I'd provided and leave both Ryan and me with nothing. Lucia arrived at 6 a.m. with her knife kit and a thermos of coffee. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. I showed her the emails, watched her expression shift as she read. "They were planning to sell the whole time? Looks like it. And they never told you. Family communications never been our strength." She sank into a dining room chair. "Mike, you sure about this partnership? Because if your family finds out what we're doing, they'll find out anyway. The question is whether we do this right or let them keep treating us like we don't matter." At 7 a.m., we changed the locks, not to bar anyone permanently, but to control access during the transition. I was the leaseholder. I had every legal right to restructure the business as I saw fit. Carlos arrived at 8 a.m. and found us working together in the kitchen, prepping for lunch. "Changes?" he asked simply. "New partner," I said. "Same job, same pay, better food." He grinned and tied on his apron. "Good, this place needed fresh energy." At 9 a.m., Ryan showed up and found the front door locked. His key didn't work. He banged on the window looking puzzled, then increasingly frustrated. I let him in through the back. "What's with the locks?" he demanded. "Security upgrade," I said. "There's been a management shift." "Management shift? What are you talking about?" I handed him an envelope with a formal letter. Valerial's kitchen was now Valerial and Ortega. His employment was terminated effective immediately with 2 weeks severance. "You can't do this," he said. "Dad made me manager. Dad doesn't have the authority to make management calls. I'm the leaseholder." "Leaseholder? What's that mean?" "It means I control the business operations." Ryan stared at the letter, then at Lucia working in the kitchen, then back at me. "This is crazy. This is business. I'm calling Dad," Ryan said, pulling out his phone. "Go ahead," I told him. "But you might want to ask him about his talks with the real estate agent first." Ryan stopped dialing. "What real estate agent?" I showed him the emails, watched his face cycle through the same emotions mine had an hour earlier. Confusion, realization, anger. "They were planning to sell?" he asked quietly. After you helped make it look profitable enough to attract buyers, he sank into a dining room chair, still holding his phone. For maybe the first time since I'd known him, Ryan was speechless. Look, I said, you can fight this if you want. Call Dad, call a lawyer, make a scene. But you'll be fighting me, not them. And I actually know how to run this place. Lucia came out of the kitchen with a plate. Try this, she said to Ryan. He looked at her warily, then at the food. Korean spiced carnitas with traditional Mexican rice and a gochujang cream sauce that didn't overpower the other flavors. Ryan took a bite. His face changed completely. This is amazing, he said. That's what happens when you base menu changes on actual cooking skills instead of social media trends, I said. He finished the plate in silence. When he was done, he looked up at me. How long have you been planning this? Since Monday night. Seriously? Sometimes the right choice doesn't take long to make. Ryan nodded slowly. What about Mom and Dad? What about them? Are you going to tell them what you found out? About the selling? That's up to you, he thought about it. Can I ask you something else? Sure. Do you think I could have been good at this, running the restaurant? I looked at him, really looked at him, maybe for the first time in years. He wasn't a bad guy. Just someone handed a role he wasn't ready for by people who didn't understand what readiness meant. I think you would have tried, I said. But trying isn't enough when you're responsible for people's livelihoods. He nodded. Fair enough. At 10 a.m., we opened as Valerial and Ortega. Our first customer was Mr. Rodriguez, who'd been coming twice a week for 8 years. New sign, he asked. New partnership, Lucia said, bringing his usual coffee. Same great food, some exciting additions. As long as you don't mess with my chili rellenos, he said. Never, she promised. The lunch rush went smoothly, better than smoothly. Lucia's presence in the kitchen elevated everything. Her technique was sharper than mine, her flavors more intricate. Customers noticed. By 2 p.m., we'd served more tables than on a typical good day. Ryan left around noon, shaking hands with Lucia and nodding at me. Good luck, he said. You'll need it when Dad finds out. Probably, I said. But not for the reasons he thinks. That afternoon, I called our suppliers to introduce Lucia as my new partner and update our ordering process. I called our insurance company to add her to the policy. I called our accountant to restructure the business entity. By 5 p.m., Valerial and Ortega was officially up and running. That evening after closing, Lucia and I sat in the dining room, planning menu updates and reviewing the day's numbers. You know your family's going to flip when they hear about this, she said. Probably. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with a lot I wasn't okay with 3 days ago. My parents showed up Friday afternoon. I was in the kitchen prepping for dinner service when I heard my dad's voice in the dining room, loud and upset. He was talking to our hostess, demanding to know where Ryan was and why the locks had changed. Where's Mike? He asked. Kitchen, she said quietly. My dad burst through the swing doors like he still ran the place. My mom trailed behind, looking smaller and more uncertain than usual. What's this nonsense? He held up the partnership papers Ryan had shown him. You can't just overhaul the business without talking to us. Actually, I can, I said, not looking up from the onions I was chopping. I'm the leaseholder. We're your parents. And I'm the guy who saved your restaurant with his own money. My mom stepped forward. Mike, we need to talk this out as a family. I stopped chopping and looked at her directly, like we talked about selling the restaurant. The kitchen went dead silent. Even Lucia paused. Selling? My mom asked. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed them the email thread with the real estate agent. Watched my mom's face shift as she read. Thomas, she said. You told me those talks were just hypothetical. You said we weren't deciding anything. My dad's face was flushed. We needed to look at our options. Our options, I repeated, after I sold my condo to give you those options. That money was a loan, he said. Show me the contract. We don't need contracts. We're family. I nodded and went back to chopping. Well, this family business is now Valerial and Ortega. You can let yourselves out. Mike, my mom said softly, please don't do this. I looked at her. Do what? Run a thriving restaurant, respect my partner, make decisions based on skill instead of favoritism. My dad stepped closer. This is still our restaurant. No, I said. It's mine. 8 weeks later, Valerial and Ortega was flourishing in ways the original restaurant never had. Lucia's menu additions drew new customers while keeping our regulars satisfied. Her social media presence brought in traffic we'd never seen. Food and Wine magazine was sending a photographer next month for a feature on innovative Mexican-Italian fusion in Texas. Our food costs were down to 29%. The deferred maintenance was done. We'd hired 2 more line cooks and raised wages for existing staff. Most importantly, we were profitable. Truly profitable, not just scraping by. Ryan stopped by occasionally, usually late after closing. He'd landed a job at a marketing firm downtown and seemed genuinely content. The weight of managing something he didn't understand was gone. "How are Mom and Dad handling it?" I asked him one night. "Dad's still mad. Mom keeps asking if you'll come to Sunday dinner. What do you tell her? That you're building something they didn't think you could." My parents never formally apologized, but they stopped fighting the partnership after the first month. Hard to argue with success when the restaurant was busier than ever. The real estate agent called once to ask if we were still interested in selling. I told him to take us off his list permanently. Last week, I signed a 5-year lease renewal with an option for another 5. The property manager said we were the steadiest tenant in the building. That evening, I sat in the dining room after closing, looking at the sign Lucia had designed. Valerial and Ortega from scratch. Simple, honest, true. Ryan was right about one thing. I wasn't built for the pressure my family created. I was built for the kind I chose myself.